Hi there. So I'm going to combine a couple of different mold making videos that I watched. They each had something really good going for them. So I bought a new pair of heavy duty scissors because if you sew at all, you know that it's a big no-no not to cut anything like this with your fabric scissors. It's like a unspoken law. It's spoken in our house, but some places don't. Got a roll of packing tape because my other one was getting pretty low. This is a multi-temp, this is a high temp glue gun. This one, these glue sticks are multi-temp. Just make sure that whatever hot glue gun you have, you get the corresponding glue sticks. And I ordered this off of Amazon. I've actually used several things from this company. I've got epoxy dye, I've got several of their molds, a little bit of everything. So we're gonna give this a try. It's got pretty decent reviews. There is another one that was mentioned a lot in a couple of the videos. I'll try that next once I get the hang of it. It's a little bit more expensive than this. I did go ahead and buy a mold release. A couple of the videos that I watched, it's kind of interesting. I bought this and then I watched a video where she didn't use this and it ripped apart some of her stuff. But what we're gonna do is lay out our parts that we want to make a mold of. One of the videos used chipboard, one of them used plywood. I forget what the other one used, but anyways, I'm using cardboard, not this particular piece. So I've got more cardboard off to the side. My husband's friend brought him these really adorable dominoes from Puerto Rico when she went back home to visit. So I'm going to use these to make a little miniature set. The disadvantage is it's only 6/6 or double 6, or whatever you want to call it. So what I may do later on is make a mold of the opposite side, just blanks without the dots, and then just paint the dots on myself. We'll see. If this is successful, I'm going to make a full-size double 12 anyways, but I thought these were so stinking cute, and she got them right about the time that I wanted to start making dominoes anyways, so it was so perfect. I'm going to attempt to make them. So you want to get an idea of how you want to arrange all of this so that you can cut your mold base as small as possible. It'll keep you from using silicone in areas that you don't intend to use. You need enough space that it can have a nice little wall between each piece. It doesn't need to be wide out like that. That's kind of pointless, but you don't want them literally that close either. I'm going to space them out enough. I've got them a little closer than what I want here because I arranged them and then I walked out here to do this. So I'm going to kind of just space it out a little bit to get an idea of how big I want. Even though this isn't the piece I'm going to use, I can still use this as my master for the other piece I'm going to use. So I already know I need to trim this nice and level there. But I'm also going to kind of trim that down right there. I'll just move these over and kind of space them out a little nicer. So I've got my piece cut for my base. About like that. It's pretty good. What we also need is something for our walls here. We really only need this a little bit taller than what we already have. Just a little bit taller than our actual project piece. So I'm going to just make a little blip right there. Because, voila. I'm going to cut this about this tall, just so that we have walls, but not so big that it makes, like, They don't need to be very big. I'm just going to finish that right there. Just like that. It's a little warped, but that's okay. It can go here. We can glue it here. I'm probably going to go here because by the time I get my other stuff in there, I do need a little bit of wiggle room. We'll see in just a minute. But I'm going to cut all 4 pieces here to match my 4 sides. Got the length I need cut here already. I'll just match it here and then do my other 2 pieces as well. All right, so we have our 4 pieces cut. So we've got that. This one will go over here. This one will go over here. You get the idea. It doesn't have to be perfection. Just got to be pretty good. Because our hot glue is going to fill in our flaws on any spot that was not quite straight. So now, I saw one video where he used beeswax on his cardboard, or on he actually did it on his wood. But several videos did this. I'm liking this idea better because it's a little easier to work with. It's a lot cheaper. Basically, this is just to keep your silicone from sticking to your cardboard. You don't have to worry about lining up your seams or anything right there. It's okay for it to overlap. We're going to do this to all the pieces. I'm not going to worry about trimming that off. I'm just going to fold this over. I'm going to trim off right here though. This is where the roll started, so it's not laying down properly. Ta-da. So there's that piece. And we're going to do the exact same thing to our wall pieces. While we're working on this, we're going to go ahead and plug in our glue gun. I'm not worried about this because hot glue will come right off of there. But if you're working on a surface that can be damaged easily, make sure and put something underneath it, like a paper plate or something like that. Got our pieces coated here. Check to make sure your glue gun is ready by just kind of squeezing it and seeing if it's coming out. If it does, obviously it's ready. If it doesn't, give it just a few more minutes. So before I start gluing this down, I'm just gonna get an idea of where I want it. It's about right there. So we are going to just carefully put that on there. I went with high temp just so I would have a little bit more wiggle room as far as how long I have before it cools off too much to actually stick like it needs to. So I just need that, and then we're going to go across here. This is to keep it from oozing out. So that's what I'm going to do here and here. I'm gonna let this cool completely, and I'm gonna double check for any spots that might need to be added to. That side looks pretty good, but I might add just a teensy bit right there. Looks pretty good though, and I'll do a little bit right here in this corner. And then we'll add our dominoes. This is good. Not beautiful, but it's going in the trash, so it doesn't matter. So now I'm going to add a little bit of glue and just place each piece down, and I'm gonna press it really good so that it doesn't end up with a little cavity underneath it. I'm hoping that the glue doesn't take off that cute little decal, but it very well might, because it looks like it might just be like a little screen print on there. But I'm just gonna work through the whole thing. I accidentally put this piece on the inside. You can't do that on both sides when you cut it down to be pretty close to your size of box that you needed, so I had to take that off. It was very easy. Hot glue is not sturdy on this slick packing tape. So now I'm just going to continue on with the second 2 rows. Everything is glued down. That is no easy task with those tiny things, these long fingernails and stubby fingers. It was not quite as easy as I was expecting it to be. So I'm gonna just spray some mold release on this. I'm just gonna spray into the trash the first couple of times. Make sure the little straw thingy is cleared out and it's all mixed in. That kind of stinks. All right, so I'm gonna let that dry and we're gonna mix up the silicone rubber. All right, so we are ready to mix this up. This is a 1-to-1 ratio. Make sure that you read your instructions, because there are some mixtures that are like 10-to-1. It just depends on if it has a base and a catalyst, or if it's a 1-to-1 like this. So we are going to do 1 ounce of each. And it's possible that I'll have to do this twice. That's okay. Make sure that you get your ratios right too, because some are incredibly sensitive. Just leave that back there. Some are incredibly sensitive, and it can be bad, catastrophic results, you could say. You could end up with sticky spots, an uncured mold, all kinds of stuff. Nice thing about silicone is if you do your first layer, if you're doing a really thick pouring, you definitely need to let it cure in between. But the nice thing about this is if you don't mix enough and you have to add to it, it'll go together just fine. They'll bond nicely. I see a piece of glitter. Have to get that off of there. just gonna work my way around the edges of the cup, work my way down. Bad thing about this cup is those little nubs on the edge right there. Mix it until you don't see any little swirls of color difference. Ah, that piece of glitter, I forgot to get it off of my stir stick. Let's wipe that off. I don't think it's gonna hurt anything. I have to actually have a silicone mold that has glitter in it, so maybe someday I'll make a fancy one. Nope, there it is. All right, this is pretty thoroughly mixed. Just get that off of there. As you're pouring into your mold, you don't want to just dump it. You want to allow it time to get into the little nooks and crannies. That's going to help with air bubbles. I spaced these a little closer than I truly needed to, so I ended up with that little space on the side. I'm not worried about it. It's okay. You can kind of see the little bubbles popping now. Doing this in a couple of batches allows for that to kind of rise to the top a little easier. You can kind of pat it like that. Some people were dropping it like that. I'm not going to do that because I don't want my dominoes to pop loose, because hot glue is not super secure on that slick packing tape. So we're just we're gonna leave it be for the moment, and we'll come back and add another batch to it in a couple of hours. We're gonna give this time to kind of set up, cure pretty good, and allow those bubbles to rise and pop. This has been sitting here for a couple of hours. There's just one or two tiny little air bubbles in here, but this is set up pretty good and firm. Luckily the air bubbles are kind of off to the side. Hopefully they're not where I care. Hopefully it's not where it matters. So I've got 20 milliliters of each. I didn't do a full ounce of each side this time, or 30 milliliters, whichever way you want to call it. So I just need to make it a little bit thicker here. I'll do another kind of thin layer, and then I'll do one more layer later tonight. Just kind of build it up. It doesn't have to be super thick, but it definitely does have to have some pretty good coverage on there. Before I did this, I made sure that it wasn't leaking out anywhere. My little mold box was nice and sealed. Alright, so we'll let that level out and set up a good bit, and then I'll come out and do just a teensy bit more. But my shelf, my table is not level, so let's fix that right now. It's kind of frustrating, all the rains that we had there for a bit. My shed is not level anymore. Certain things I do that doesn't really come into play, but other times it definitely does. All right, so we'll come back out in a little bit. So I've got another layer on here. I did not record that because it was just the exact same as what I just did. I just did another 20 milliliters of each of these, and now we let it sit until tomorrow. It's already set up a little bit. We're pretty good as far as our air bubbles go. Not really seeing any right here. I did definitely see some on the original layer, but I think we're gonna be okay still. So I'm literally gonna just let this be until tomorrow night. Here we are. This is cured. It's pretty great. I don't really see air bubbles that concern me. Here we go. So we are going to gently just kind of pull this away. I'm doing it gently because I may end up using these pieces again to do this again. We'll see. I have to do a little bit of trimming, but that's actually pretty normal. You know what? Let's use our spatula. Good old Cricut spatula. It's got glitter epoxied to it, but that's okay. Just give it a little persuasion. Oh, that's a bad one right there. I don't know if I'll be able to fix that. That is where the super hot glue kind of bubbled up, and I had that right up next to it. There we go. Okay. Ta-da! I do have a few places here that I'm going to need to go around it with my blade. I'm going to use a fresh blade. But I need to figure out first, how can I fix this? I bet you I can make a little box and just kind of build that and leave it tilted. Kind of fill that in and then cut it away. So that's what we'll do. We'll figure out, we'll work on that. I'm going to take out the rest of these pieces after I cut around it to give the edges smoother. And then I'll show you how we can fix that. So as you peel this out, you want to trim this little edge right here, just as close to where we need it to open as possible. Of course, it's not going to be smooth since I'm trying to do this from way up here. So let's get down here and see. Just nice and smooth. That way the mold will just have a little bit smoother edge to it. You can go back in and trim it just a little bit. It might be kind of hard with a blade, but you can do it with a tiny, tiny pair of scissors. That's what I'm going to do on some of these. Voila. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of peel that away. I'll see any spots that I missed on snipping there. Now my next one, I'm definitely not using hot glue. It's also possible that I didn't press them down far enough. Like I said earlier, I'm not used to having long fingernails, and it definitely works against me sometimes. All right, voila. And then you just gently kind of release it. I've done a couple of these with a different brand that it just did not want to release, and I had a really hard time with it. But you can kind of see the 3 little dots right there. It's pretty perfect. I've got one right here. I need to trim this, but I'll do that with a tiny little pair of scissors. Won't be too difficult. I just need to trim up just the tiniest little bit to make it pretty easy for them to be filled. I'm gonna leave this one in the corner. I'm gonna go ahead and get all this out, and then I'm going to leave these bottom few here so that I can fix that corner right there where my hot glue kept me from getting a good corner there. So I have some more of the silicone rubber mixed up. I'm actually going to set this away from the corner just a bit. Because of how I want to build it up, I'm just going to cut off the excess, but I wanted to show you guys how you can fix it. I mean, it wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't screw up something that I needed to fix. So basically that. A little bit more. Okay, so just like that, I'm going to prop this up at an angle that it doesn't spill out over this. I don't want it so high, but I definitely want it at an angle that it's pooling right there in the corner. So I'm going to prop it up against a couple of books and keep it from sliding. And then after that is completely cured, I'll come back out here and I'll just slice it off with a blade. This thing is proving itself quite handy today. But that is how we are going to repair that corner that messed up on us. It's about the only way to do it without redoing everything. Yeah, so we'll check on this tomorrow. So it's been 24 hours or so. So I'm going to pull this out of here. You can see how it corrected my corner there like I needed it to. I'm not super concerned with this, but we do need this as even as possible. I was hoping that it wouldn't go underneath there very badly, but of course it did. So I'm just going to trim this like that. I'll get a little bit off the bottom in just a minute. Our primary concern though was to fill that spacing for that domino. Doesn't have to be pretty unless you're going to sell these. If you're going to sell them, then yeah, make it look nice, because then it looks like people are getting their money's worth for sure. But otherwise, I mean, if it's just for your own personal use, it's not the end of the world. So I'm going to now cut that right there around the edge, and then we'll be good to go there. And then I'm going to get a little bit of this off the bottom. So really you can do it this way, just nice and slow and steady. Of course, this isn't working like I want it because I'm holding it versus it being supported on a flat, rigid surface. But just kind of shave that back off of there so that your bottom lays flat. We know now for future use to make sure and get it away from the corner, but like I said earlier, I did accidentally get that a little closer than I intended. A little closer together. But yeah, I'm just going to clean this up a little bit here. Just like that, nice and slow and steady. Just get that excess off of there so that it lays flat. And then continue cleaning this up. Like that. Just all around each of these that's left over. But overall, I'm pretty stinking excited to have this little miniature domino set. I'm really, really excited. I may have to make my husband's friend a set just for the sake of saying, hey, thanks for grabbing these. Super cute. If you have any questions, please comment. I'll do my best to answer them. Watch lots of videos. This is just my compilation of a couple of videos. Kind of adding a couple of different tips into one video that I used several people's advice. That's how easy that is. I have my little snips that I'm going to get right here. Just a couple tiny little pieces I just want to clean up just a little bit. But once there's glitter in there, it really won't be all that obvious if they're a little bit off, as far as like the edges not being quite as smooth as they could be. But you'll get the hang of it. That's it. That's how we're doing that. All right, I hope you enjoyed this, and if you like my videos at all, please turn on notifications and consider subscribing. Thanks so much, and have a good one.